Hi, welcome. My name is Alice Keeler, and so I'm doing data visualization for student projects. If you'd like to write down the short code, goo.gl/capital D lowercase d 9 lowercase x and lowercase e, you can access my slideshow. So data visualization, what is data visualization? This is something I asked myself when I was going to be doing a project on this, and I'm like, what is it? Why would I want to do it? And so, what comes first to your mind, right? Infographics. These are really a hot way to have students take their information and, visualize it. That's what we're doing here, right? We're visualizing data. To do maps. This is something great for Google. If you're not familiar with fusion tables, I'm going to cover that a little bit, but isn't that just fun looking? It actually does some really useful stuff. I can do this with fusion tables also. And so why would I want to visualize my data? Well, I found this article on the internet. It's really interesting, right? It's like, I'm not even going to read this. It's just so over the top. But then when you actually read the title, it says, more than a third of middle school students are using mobile devices for homework. I know what you're like, that is something I want to know about. But I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's just so much text. It's really hard to engage and picture it. And when you see more than a third, how many of you are actually just trying to mentally put your mind around what that looks like? So we ask our students, hey, why don't you choose a visual that's going to represent that data? So if approximately 3 out of 7 mobile users access homework on their phones, now I can ask students to think about what is the appropriate imagery that would help get across the message, and mathematically, how would you represent the feeling of what this looks like? So we're asking students to dive a little bit deeper into what they're reading and what they're researching to how they can project that for you. And so this is always fun, right? Who doesn't like to look at spreadsheets? Me? No, I'm the only one who likes to look at spreadsheets. I mean, this is so hard to make sense out of, right? When we really want our students analyzing data, and especially real-world data, is what are the ramifications for this? What can you do with it? Instead of being hypothetical, I would rather be able to plot out all of the pieces of information and see kind of where the different countries are, where the information is. This is from a fusion table, and so what I was able to do is to diagram out, not only map them, but the different relationships. And I'm like, as soon as I see this visually, what jumps out at you? What is up with Brazil, right? I don't know what's up with Brazil. This is like poverty rates or something, or inflation. But as soon as I see it visually, I start to notice patterns and things that I'm going to explore more. So we ask students, hey, here's this ginormous spreadsheet of data. What are you curious about? They're not going to be curious about a whole lot from a whole spreadsheet, right? You got to somehow make this palatable. So by using Google tools like Fusion Tables, we can help our students to say, I'm kind of wondering what's going on with Brazil, and I'm going to investigate and look at that further. Google Fusion Tables also makes these really cool network graphs. And I look at this and I'm like, I made up this data, to be honest with you, but if this was a real data set, I'd be thinking, wow, there's a lot of people taking math, right? Because we have all our kids taking 2 math classes, right? And then you notice that you've got quite a large number of kids that are getting a D. And other things you can notice, I'm going to fall off stage, is on the math to the A, you'll notice that it has that nice thick line. So I can see what these different connections are, and it actually does this really cool thing, if it'll load for me. It lives using Google Fusion Tables. So now we ask students, hey, why don't you take your information and put it into a Google Fusion table, and I want you to tell me what patterns you notice, what kinds of connections there are. I got all these kids taking math, but then I notice a lot of them have, what does this connect to? You see that really thick line? A lot of kids taking math are getting A's. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I'm a math teacher, so, I'm a little biased on this. I don't know, it's kind of fun to see how it moves. But it really takes it and makes it dynamic. So we're asking students to be curious, to explore. What can they do with the information, not just find the information. Return to full screen. So how do you get that data? Where, most of the time we live in the textbook. And the textbook has some fictional situation. I think the greatest gift ever is Google Forms, right? We can just go out and collect the data. If you do a search for public data records, you would be amazed what is free and easily accessible to you just through a Google search of public data. You can get International Monetary Fund information, you can get county information, census information. There's a lot of places that our students can go that are reputable, that have real data, and then they're looking for the patterns, what makes them curious. By visualizing that information and say a Google Fusion table, then they're able to figure out what questions they want to ask next and what's their next step in doing research. Obviously, you can request it. If your students go out and request it, make sure they get a CSV file. So just want to talk a little bit about Google Spreadsheets if you're not familiar with those. I am super in love with them. But in the Google Spreadsheet itself, it has the symbol for doing charts. Now, we always know you can do a bar graph. Everyone can figure that. So I thought I would highlight a couple of them that are a little bit unusual. So if you click on the Charts tab, what you're going to see is you actually have things like maps and some other little goofy ones. So I go Charts, I go to Maps. I'm like, what this is going to do is going to take my data, it's going to plot it where it's significant, and then it's going to get darker in color and bigger the more more incidences it is. So that helps me find those patterns. And it's something I can really easily do in a spreadsheet. So I can take that map and I can drill it down so I don't have to look at the whole world, or maybe I do want to look wider. So I can find those patterns. It's under Customize. And then what I think is really neat is this insert. So I'm able to insert that graph not only right into my spreadsheet, but if you look at the little drop-down arrow, I can save that image. So once I have students, they have this data, they get it from the internet, they find it themselves, they collect it on a Google form, and they graph it using a spreadsheet, they are able to take that image and save it as a JPEG image, which now they can go use that in all of their other projects. Yeah, little arrow. Save the image. Okay, you can also just move the thing to its own chart, to its own sheet. So what that's going to do is you have the data, and you don't want the chart on top of your data covering up. So as you find those patterns and you want to go back to the data to find where it is, it kind of is able to easily get it out of your way. So you'll notice on this is that I've got, I charted all this data that I downloaded from the internet, from the International Monetary Fund, and I can see here some of the dots are bigger, some of them are smaller. You can see this real big one is it's yellow because it is the biggest one. So I'm thinking, what country is that? What information do I need to find out about that country? I'm sparking student curiosity. I'm not sparking it. The data is, because, of course, they found it themselves. Right? Another chart that you might want to look at. I go to charts. You'll see here they have some really funky ones on the side that are kind of fun to explore. It's under More, and it is these little dials. And I like to use this for competition. It doesn't have to be boys against girls, but, who's bringing in more cans for the canned food drive? It actually is going to update as I change the information in the spreadsheet. The chart's going to update too. So it's something fun, and I can publish it. So I can publish this to the website to keep the updates going in the competition. This is a fun thing for students. So using Google Forms, what's really awesome about them is, of course, that you can collect your data. It sends students out to say, what questions do I want to know and what ways do I want to ask them? And they work awesome on a mobile device, and I think that's one of my favorite my favorite part about it is that it goes to a spreadsheet, but it's collaborative. So that means while students are out with their tablet devices interviewing, collecting data, you have other students who are looking at the data, analyzing it so they can make those visualization charts. Something new about Google Forms that I just want to kind of point out is you do need to choose the response destination and choose to say that you want to put it in a spreadsheet, because that's where you're going to really get the magic out of it, that you can visualize the data and make charts out of it. New spreadsheet. If you do go back to the slideshow later, I just have some links in there intended for you to look at afterwards. So it really, what I love about Google is just the power to collaborate. So if at a later time you'd like to fill out this Google form, I have kind of a little sample lesson plan that you can look at. So I want my students to go out and find information, but I don't need one student to do all the work. I can have all the students collaborate together. So I've said, okay, look, I want to know about going to colleges. I want to encourage my students to go to college. So I want everyone to go investigate a university. So then you're going to find how many applications that university gets, how many they accepted, their acceptance rate, the university webpage, the link to an image from the university, and these things. And so every student does their own. They're turning in their project this way. I had an article that you could link to where they can pull that information, but the rest of it, they're going to need to copy and paste it from a Google search, use Google Images to get the picture. And if you haven't used Google Images before, I'm not advocating stealing copyrighted pictures, so don't do that. We should all be using Creative Commons. So when you find that Creative Commons image, you can actually just right-click on the image and copy the image URL, and that's what they would fill into the Google form. Make that a little bigger, copy the image URL. And then at the bottom, it's asking for latitude and longitude. Honestly, you don't actually have to collect the latitude and longitude because if you use a Google Fusion table, it looks it up for you. So when I put in what's the name of the university, Google says, hey, I know where Harvard is. I know where Berkeley is. And it just bloop, 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 put them on a map for me magically. But say you're doing something a little less obvious like the neighborhood McDonald's or whatever, then you can actually go to Google Maps and right-click on there, and it will give you the latitude and longitude. So you right-click, you choose what's here, and moving forward. And so you'll notice when I click on there, it then in the information window, it's going to show that latitude and longitude for the students to put that in there. So if you wanted to do that, these links are, again, available for you after the fact. So you can play around with it. But so once you get it, you'll see that this is crowdsourced, right? So I had every student submit to me the name of their university, how many applications, look up the web page, latitude, longitude. Then I just asked the students to take that spreadsheet and make a copy. They all have their own. Now they can find, everyone's going to find different patterns and different things that are meaningful to them, even though we're all using the same data set. And so if you have never heard, who's here's heard of Google Fusion tables? Couple of you, it's like magical. So at the end of the slideshow that I'm not going to show you, I actually have like some screenshots showing you how to install it. It is an add-on app to the Google Drive, and it's like jaw-dropping amazing. It's something that you can go show people, and they'll think that you are a ninja, and you're like, it wasn't as hard as you think it is. But what happened is when I uploaded that same data set that I had my students collected, you'll notice that the link is hyperlinked. And then the images that they submitted to me, just that the URL is now a visual picture, and they're all sized the same. So it's really nice to look at, but really is really nice is it maps it. And it put a little map on there, and then it has an info card that shows me all that information. That is customizable with HTML. So if you know just a little bit of HTML, you can now create and publish a map of all your student work. So this is all my students in one visualization with their information, and they can go and explore the information that the other students contributed. It does it all by itself. It's like magic. It's awesome. It also automatically will create these data cards. And again, this is editable if you know a little bit of HTML, so beyond the default, so you can actually make it look however you want. So I had one, I just made this up to be honest, but let's pretend it's real. I'm saying, okay, at the school we have these different events. So I had I would have the students, they would enter, okay, here's the event we're trying to advertise, and I'm going to need a QR code, and they put in just the link to that and some image that represents it, and this is published and filterable. So the students can then create something on the school webpage to show what kind of things are going on at the school and different ways that they can share information just right here through a Google Fusion table. And this again is the network table, so as network chart rather. This is in the Fusion tables. So just right in Google Fusion tables, I say there's a little tab at the top, and I say make me a chart, and I'm able to choose this. And again, you remember I showed you how I can drag it around, and it lives and it breathes, and that's where instantly you're noticing some patterns. Am I right? This guy's off by himself, like what's going on Sunday, and really sparking that student curiosity. So if you look in the Google Fusion table, it'll allow me to look at the survey data by summarizing it. I can apply different filters, so I can look at it male and female, by grade level, have you ever. I can create bar graphs, I can create pie charts, I can create these network charts, and they're all very easy. So I would really encourage you to go back, get into your Google Drive, add the app, Fusion tables, and take a look at how that can really be something powerful for your students to explore data with. I apparently have a lot of these slides. I love these network charts. And so my last thing to show you is that you can create infographics with Google Draw. I made this entirely in Google Draw except for the little Android guy. I kind of like stole that off the internet. I didn't say that. But these are really fun to create, and when you ask students to visualize their information, and they have to thoughtfully plan what is the appropriate visualization for their information rather than just typing out long paragraphs. How many of you guys like to look at infographics? I mean, I don't know about you, but when someone posts on Twitter, they have an infographic, I open it up right away. Why? Because it's a low level of commitment. I can look at it quickly. I can get the information almost instantly. I can get a feel for the information and decide if it's something I want to explore further. So asking students to create this is a really great student project. It's visually pleasing. They can make pictographs. And they're making a story out of the data. So if you are not using Google Draw, you are missing out. This is one of my favorite tools. It is collaborative and it can be published. So when I put that infographic and I publish it to my website, if I make any edits or if a student makes an edit to their project, it updates my website automatically. So again, I had this story and I said, hey, I have an idea for a project. What if I take all the data out of the story, and this is a Google Draw, and I put it in the sides. This is just like a warmer getting started with infographics without just telling the students, hey, make me an infographic, figure it out. Giving them a few ideas for ways they could use little cell phones and little people, but they got to figure out how many cell phones they want, copy, paste, and do these different things. So I do have that article, and I have the link to all of this. If you want to download this as a template, if I'll make a copy, you are welcome to that. This is in the template galleries. And for those of you who think the template gallery has gone away, it has not. You can actually add it to your Google Drive as an add-on app, but you can also go to drive.google.com/templates, and you can look up the infographics toolbox. And so then students can use these tools. You can actually color every individual one of those states, whatever color you want. So now we're asking students to make those decisions themselves about how they're going to represent, on the map. So that is free and available. I also have a Google Doc. It's also on my blog. I blog at alicekeeler.com, and I have a lot of googly nerdiness on there. But I do have a whole entire document that allows you to see just some different techniques for using Google Draw to make pie graphs and the little people and the different charts and things with some recommendations. And so I'm just going to leave you with a couple of hints and tips about making them in Google Draw so you don't think it's, a lot of times you open it up and it just seems so basic. You're like, really, Alice? I can make an infographic with this? I'm like, yes, you can. So do you know if you hold down the Shift key, you'll make a perfect circle or a perfect square when you're creating that shape? If you hold down the Shift key, actually, the answer to all of life's problems apparently is to hold down the Shift key. If you hold down the Shift key, it will actually gently nudge them together. You know, like when you move the shape using the arrows and it just doesn't line up right. So that's where the Shift key can come in handy. You can actually hold down the Shift key as you click on multiple shapes, and it will group the shapes together so that you can move them or go to a range and group them. And here's just a really nice tip that I think just instantly helps make your infographics look a little more professional, is to remove the border. Just take it off, make it transparent. And then once you have created your infographic, you can have the students download it or publish it. I love to have them publish it. Why? Because that shouldn't be the end result. So whatever they've made, they've published it, they put it on their Google Site digital portfolio, and then you continue to have the conversation. They continue to fix up their research, and as they fix their infographic, it's automatically updated where they published it. And when students publish their work, they take a little bit more pride in it, and they want to do a better job because it's not just for the teacher, it's for the world. So thank you. Again, you can find a lot of my resources on data visualization and other Google nerdy things at alicekeeler.com. And you can tweet me at alicekeeler. And I love to share. And I'm just going to go back to the first slide so you can get the QR code. I know there's a faster way than doing this, and I don't know why I'm not doing it. We're going to review it in reverse. I had a lot of slides. This felt like a good idea. There we go. All right, so if you would like this slideshow and all of my resources, there is the link. So thank you.